that's sort of our methodology. Detect, interact, capture, escalate.
It came pretty obvious early on that if you could sort of get the ghosts to play along with you, if you could get them interacting with you, things tend to escalate. They would get better and better and better and better. And you could listen to the audio and even watch the video and see, you know, hour 1, nothing. Hour 2, maybe a Class C EVP. Hour 3, 2 or 3 EVPs, and maybe a glimpse of something weird, you know. And so it was like the more that you sort of work with the spirits there, the more they would work with you. So we just sort of came up with D.I.C.E, which was basically we detect the ghosts, then we start to interact with them, and then of course capture what's going on, and then escalate it as much as we can. And that's sort of our basic philosophy, and that's how we work.
We actually at Paranormal Inc. we have an acronym. We use D.I.C.E, D-I-C-E, D.I.C.E, and it's basically we detect, interact, capture, and then try to escalate it so that the activity gets bigger and bigger, so that eventually something really dramatic happens, and we're able to get that on audio or video or through photographs or however we're able to capture that.
It was sort of kind of honed down after we had started doing a lot of our early investigations. We figured out pretty quick that some things worked and some things didn't.
Your first goal, I guess, when you get to a haunted location is to actually sort of detect what's going on. And of course, I'm bypassing, you know, the idea that, of course, I'm assuming that you've researched the place and that you have an idea of the history and what people have said occurred there. So you kind of go armed with that information, as well as your own senses, because it's not about gear all the time. It's also about going to a place and just sitting quietly and performing a vigil and just listening to what's going on around you and just sort of getting a feel for a place. People a lot of times overlook that and run straight for the gadgets, and that's to their detriment, because a lot of times you could just figure out a few hot spots for yourself if you actually just sat and listened for a little bit. D.I.C.E, part 2, interact. So interacting is the fun part. So you've detected, you know, something is going on here. So you're sitting down here, the K2 meter, the cell sensors acting funny, you're saying, you know, come towards it, light it up, seems to be responding to you. Well, that's interacting with the spirit, because what you want to do is ultimately is sort of get them to play along, because this is what's going to get you your audio and your video and your photos. So some of the things that you can do, the most popular, of course, is EVP work. All right, so let's talk about then part 3 of D.I.C.E, which is capturing with them. So now you're interacting with them, you got things rolling, you hopefully have audio and video going, and you're asking questions and you're trying to prompt activity, and hopefully you're catching some of it. As you know from watching all of these shows, you don't usually figure that out until you're reviewing the stuff back at home, because EVPs most entities tend not to have enough energy to get loud enough to where we can actually hear them. On occasion we do, and I'm going to play you some of those. But most of the time, you'll just be asking questions and really not hearing a response until you go back and analyze everything. So we're still kind of talking about interacting and capturing here, you know, because they kind of go hand in hand. You get things going and you're hopefully capturing it on audio or video or something of that sort. A lot of times when you start capturing stuff and you've interacted with them, you'll notice it'll start to peak. You'll hit, suddenly stuff just starts going crazy, like just all around you. So the last part of D.I.C.E, and again, you know, this is just our approach, you know, to doing this and kind of how we got all the evidence for this movie. So, you know, we're detecting, we're interacting, we're hopefully capturing what's going on, and then the best part, escalate it. Because the more, and this has just been our experience, the more that you work with the spirits that's going on, it seems to get better and better. You know, you might get an EVP in here, or you might get a knock response or something. But the more you kind of keep, this is why I think, you know, so many ghost hunters, they go all night. They don't show up and work 2 hours and go, yeah, I'm bored, I'm leaving. Because they know if you keep at them and you keep going, it's going to get better and better and better and better.
And then you're sort of repeating it, because you're escalating it and you're escalating it. Meanwhile, you're trying to detect more activity. You're trying to interact with that activity and capture it. You know, so it's D.I.C.E, but it's D-I-C-E, D-I-C-E, you're repeating. It's been a great approach for us, and I recommend it for anyone that's, you know, just trying to get evidence captured.